Alright, hey everyone. Shazam! Fury of the Gods is out, and so I figured it was as good a time as any to update my DCEU ranking. There are now 12 movies in the DCEU. Spoiler alert for everything but the new movie. Starting off down at the bottom, my number 12 is Suicide Squad. I have stopped watching this movie because it just gets worse every time I watch it. I mean, I still enjoy it to an extent, but less and less every time. Most of the acting is solid. Jai Courtney is easily the best part of this movie. He shines here because he's actually allowed to use his native accent. When he has to use an American accent, he just loses all of his charisma. Or at least most of it. Margot Robbie is solid as Harley Quinn. Not a big fan of her outfit, but she's great. Viola Davis and Jay Hernandez are also very good. Some of the comedy does genuinely work. Not much, but some of it. Easily, the best part of the movie is this shot of June Moon turning into Enchantress.
Enchantress.
That shit is just awesome. And I wish we could have seen more of that kind of thing. But yeah, David Ayer kind of got screwed over with this movie. I love Will Smith as an actor, and he gives a solid performance, but I just don't buy him as a super villain. An alcoholic anti-hero maybe, but not a villain. The action scenes here are a mixed bag. They're well shot, but they're poorly edited. Yeah, the editing in this movie is bad, and the pacing is atrocious. I shit you not, this movie has 2 first acts. Kids, this is why you don't let a trailer house edit your goddamn movie. And even beyond that, there's just so much shit that makes no sense. For example, sending the squad against Enchantress. First of all, Enchantress was originally supposed to be part of the team, so that was the counter for Superman, for anyone complaining about that. However, once she went bad, they sent the squad against her. The Suicide Squad is who you get sent against someone like the Joker, or maybe even Deathstroke, or someone like that. Not, you know, a Zod-level threat. And yeah, the villains in this movie just suck. My score is 2.5 out of 5. Number 11 is Wonder Woman 1984. This movie is shamelessly bonkers, infectiously joyful, and painfully relevant in this day and age. It's also a mess. Gal Gadot is delightful, and Chris Pine is great.
All right. Yeah.
I'll never love again.
I pray that isn't true. There's a wonderful, big world out there. This crazy new world. And I am so happy I got to see it. But it deserves you.
I can't say goodbye.
You don't have to. I'm already gone.
The pacing is good, the action is good, Hans Zimmer's music is very good. Cheetah and Maxwell Lord are good villains, mostly Lord. Cheetah, we learn things about her more based on people's reactions to her than based on her actions, so she's not as fleshed out as the movie thinks she is. Maxwell Lord is a bit more fleshed out. The problem is we don't get any insight into his backstory until like the very end, or around somewhere around the climax. Instead of being spoon-fed bits and pieces throughout, we get it all at once, and it doesn't work quite as well as it could have. But yeah, he's not evil, he's just easily manipulated. Unlike in the first movie, the third act here actually feels like a natural continuation of the story, so there's that. On the other hand, this movie suffers from a double case of broken Aesop, which means that it contradicts the moral or message it's trying to send. Maxwell Lord seems to be an indictment of 80s consumerism and capitalism as a whole. However, the rest of the movie goes out of its way to glorify 80s fashion trends, ritzy apartments and office spaces, fancy cars and shopping malls, i.e. representations of those very things. Also, for all Diana's talk about how she's given up so much for the world and wants one thing, Steve, in return, she has an enormous condo, tastefully decorated with a gorgeous view overlooking the Potomac, i.e. the exact sort of space someone like Maxwell Lord might covet. She may not covet more in the way he does, but she still indulges to a hefty degree. Also, the moral of never take shortcuts that Diana learns from Antiope rings kind of hollow when one remembers that Diana is a princess and a demigod who is able to enter the toughest athletic tournament in Themyscira when she was just a child and nearly outcompete her older, more seasoned opponents thanks to her royal status and supernatural abilities. The score is 3 out of 5. Number 10 is Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. Starting off with the good stuff. The tone is consistent. The acting is solid. Batfleck is badass, Gal Gadot is delightful, and Henry Cavill is awesome. Jeremy Irons, Amy Adams, Lawrence Fishburne, Holly Hunter are all good. The action in this movie is great. The warehouse fight is one of the best action scenes in any superhero movie ever. The music is solid, and especially I love the musical build-up to the warehouse fight. The or whatever it was. That shit was dope. I also dig this movie's Batmobile. It's not my favorite, but it's unique, and it still looks like a Batmobile. The villains are kind of meh. I like Lex Luthor. I don't love him. Doomsday is whatever. He's fine. He's whatever. My big complaint here is that there's not a whole lot of... Shit, what's the word I'm looking for? There's not a lot of breaks in the tension. There's not a lot of humor. There's a little bit here and there, but the main example is...
It's okay. I'm a friend of your son's.
I figured. The cape?
Which actually gets a laugh out of me, like pretty much every time. But like aside from that, there's not a whole lot. The score is 3.5 out of 5. Number 9 is Black Adam. There are fun kid characters and there are annoying kid characters. This movie's kid character is somewhere in between. This movie is no masterpiece, but it's a hell of a fun popcorn flick. Dwayne Johnson proves that he is solid casting for the titular role. Maybe not the best casting, mind you, but he's still good casting. Pierce Brosnan as Dr. Fate steals the show. I wish we had gotten more of him. I hate that he was the one who sacrificed himself, especially when Hawkman's whole thing is resurrection. Like, did the director and writers not read the comics? Most of the VFX are solid. The stuff they do on... Oh my god, what the hell was his name? Sabak. See, they named their character after a Star Wars game. No. The VFX on Sabak? Not very good. The VFX on Shrunken Down Rock when he's not Shazam. When he's not... Black Adam. They're fine. They're good. They're not terrible. The humor mostly works. I like the running gag about Adam trying to find his catchphrase. Tell them the man in black sent you. That was actually a pretty badass moment, even if the whole thing was kind of stolen from T2. Then again, truly original art is a rarity. Even, like, the shit I write isn't, like, wholly original. Like, I don't base it directly off any one thing, but, like, I'm inspired by, like, bits and pieces of everything. So, like, in my Grey Jedi short stories, one of the main characters is a Sith sorceress, heavily inspired by Darth Zana, but she also has a cybernetic arm inspired by Yang Xiaolong from RWBY. And she's also a redhead, well, because I have a thing for redheads. Anyway, moving on. But yeah, that is my one big problem with this movie, is that it does a good job of borrowing bits and pieces from other superhero media, but in doing so, it never really finds its own voice, which is something I worry about with my writing, but I like to think I at least did better than this movie. The Justice Society are all fun characters with depth and at least some development. Hawkman gets the most development, and Aldous Hodge's performance is on point. Noah Centineo is probably the weakest link in terms of acting, but he's still very good. He's very natural and funny. I just wish his character didn't feel like an amalgamation of Ryan Reynolds' Deadpool, Paul Rudd's Ant-Man, and Tom Holland's Spider-Man. My personal favorite is Quintessa Swindell, I hope I pronounced that, as Cyclone. She's funny and quirky and a total badass, and the visual effects used to bring her powers to life are really, really good. My score is 3.5 out of 5. Next up, my number 8 is Man of Steel. Look, you can say what you will about this movie, Henry Cavill is a great Superman. I know some people complain about his version of Superman, you know, killing Zod. Superman has always been about life. He would never take a life like that. Okay, yes, your Superman does that. Comic book Superman does that. Christopher Reeve's Superman probably does that. I don't remember offhand. This is a different version of Superman. This is a Superman who hasn't reached that point in his life yet. I don't know what the hell I'm doing with my hands. This is Superman who reaches that point the hard way. How does he discover the true value in life? He's forced to kill someone in order to save others. It's the trolley problem.
If you love these people so much, you can mourn for them. Don't do this! Stop! Never.
The rest of the cast is great too. Amy Adams, Russell Crowe, Lawrence Fishburne, Kevin Costner, Diane Lane. Michael Shannon as General Zod is still one of the best DCEU villains, even 10 years later. And I am so happy that he's going to be back in the Flash movie. Anja Trow somehow outshines him as Feora Ul, and goddammit, if he's coming back, she has to come back too. The action in this movie is well shot and well edited, it's visceral and exciting, and Superman's flight has never felt more real. Snyder also shows restraint by not using any slow motion, or at least using very little of it. Instead, he uses snap zooms, something he did in 300, but here without the slow motion, which is where instead of cutting to a close-up, the camera will snap zoom in onto what's going on, and then it'll snap zoom back out. You know, even if you hate Zack Snyder's movies, there is no denying that he makes good-looking movies. My score is 4 out of 5. Alright, now, number 6 and 7 are currently neck and neck. So, They literally could change places in between recording this and editing it. However, as of this recording, my number 7 is Aquaman. This movie is the cinematic equivalent of good overacting. It's completely over the top, it knows it, and it doesn't give a fuck. As it should. Or rather, as it shouldn't. The acting is solid across the board. I wouldn't call Jason Momoa a great actor, but he was born to play Aquaman. He is clearly having a blast in this role pretty much every time I see him in it. Patrick Wilson as Orm gives General Zod a run for his money in terms of being a great villain. Nicole Kidman, Yahya Abdul-Mateen, Willem Dafoe, and Tamura Morrison are all good, if not great. And the less I say about Amber Heard, the better. The action in this movie is so good. I mean, most of the action is fairly standard, just, above average. Then there are the 2 fight scenes done with no cuts, and they're just phenomenal. My score is 4 out of 5. Number 6 is Shazam! Fury of the Gods. Shazam! Fury of the Gods. This movie makes a few small improvements on the first movie, but it's a step down overall. We get more time with Billy's family, which is always nice to see. I wish we had gotten more time with Aster Angel's version of Billy, because he spends most of his screen time as Shazam. Once again, Grace Curry is my favorite of the bunch. Curray? How the hell do you pronounce that? Grace Curry, however you say it, is my favorite of the bunch yet again. I love that she gets to play the superhero version of her character this time. The humor is just as good as it was in the first movie. No decline in quality there.
Look, I might not have as much experience as you because I'm not super old like you, but I've seen all of the Fast and the Furious movies, lady. It's all about family! Family! Guys, that was a signal!
I like the new villains. I won't say they're better or worse than Savannah. They're just... they're equally good in a different way. I like the variety we get, where we have one who is mostly good, one who is mostly bad, and one who is somewhere in between. I like that balance. I won't spoil too much regarding them, but they're good. Yeah, the action is great. The character arcs work, and I love the realism of the fact that the Stone of Eternity, or whatever it's called, I love that it looks like a bunch of teenagers live there, because they do. Like, they have, I don't even know, arcade games and, snap machines and shit like that. My score is 4 out of 5. Number 5 is Wonder Woman. Gal Gadot is delightful as Wonder Woman. Chris Pine is great, and Lucy Davis is hilarious. The rest of the cast is at least good. Regarding Ares, I don't know. Ares is a mixed bag. Because, David Thewlis' performance is on point, but at the same time, in the climax, he just becomes another CGI villain. The action is great. The slow motion is different enough from Zack Snyder's slow motion to not feel the same.
You will train her harder than any Amazon before her. 5 times harder. 10 times harder. Until she is better than even you. But she must never know the truth about what she is, or how she came to be.
The humor is so good. It feels natural as opposed to injected into a completed script. The musical score here is one of the best in the franchise. It borrows a little bit from BVS, but it mostly does its own thing, and I love it. Ludendorff and Dr. Poison are fine. They're not great. They're not awful. They're fine. My score is 4.5 out of 5. Number 4 is Harley Quinn, Birds of Prey. Yes, it's been 3 years, and I still refuse to say the longer title, because it's stupid. And also, it's more accurate, because the longer title implies that this is a Birds of Prey movie featuring Harley Quinn, when in reality, this is a Harley Quinn movie featuring the Birds of Prey. This movie is such a big step up from Suicide Squad. It's rated R, the tone is consistent, and the stakes are actually reasonable. That's what I love about this movie. It's not high stakes end of the world. It's Harley breaks up with the Joker and loses her social immunity in the process, and now everybody with a bone to pick with her is free to go after her. And it's a lot of people. Margot Robbie really gets this character, or at least this version of the character. She knows when to play dumb. She knows when to just be ruthless. And yet she's still human. She still gets drunk, and she is still at risk of being taken advantage of when she's inebriated. I love her whole monologue about when she's drunk and she's talking to Canary about the role of a Harlequin. That's heartbreaking. Journey Smollett and Rosie Perez are both solid. Mary Elizabeth Winstead absolutely steals the show. I just wish we'd gotten more of her. Ewan McGregor and Chris Messina are so good. They're clearly having a lot of fun together. And Ewan McGregor, oh my god, somehow blends flamboyant with sinister in just the perfect way. Wait, Crossbow Killer? Why don't I own the Crossbow Killer? I mean, I like crossbows. That's your reasoning, dude? I like crossbows? But, Ewan McGregor sells it so well. The action in this movie is a step up. The choreography is superior to most of the other movies in this franchise, and also most of the MCU, for that matter. The humor is consistently funny. Harley and her egg sandwich is still a better love story than Twilight, and that's actually saying something, because Twilight isn't even the worst love story out there. There are at least 3 others that are worse. I love that they poke fun at the fact that Huntress is your generic anti-hero out for revenge, but they also play that realistically because she was raised to be a killer. She wasn't raised with social skills, she's awkward. And she has to practice her one-liners in the mirror ahead of time, and even then she doesn't always nail them in the moment.
When she was ready, and by ready I mean a badass motherfucking killing machine, she moves back to Gotham, starts working on that kill list. She has the murder stuff down, but the rest?
Do you know who I am? Do you know who I am?
Still a work in progress.
Do you know who I am?
The Crossbow Killer.
They call me.
The Crossbow Killer.
They call me.
The Crossbow Killer?
They call me. Huntress.
She calls herself Huntress. Fucking fabulous, if you ask me.
My score is 4.5 out of 5. Number 3 is Zack Snyder's Justice League. This is a tale of epic proportions told with style and substance. This movie is it is twice as long as the theatrical cut, but it is worth every minute. I feel like they could have trimmed it down to 3.5 hours, but I didn't mind. The padding that's there wasn't egregious. It's not something that I hate having to watch. Almost every positive aspect of Joss Whedon's cut is present here, with only a couple of exceptions. The lengthy runtime gives Snyder plenty of time to flesh out the new and returning characters. Unlike in the theatrical cut, Steppenwolf A actually looks badass. When he flexes his armor and breaks all of the arrows, that shit was dope. And B, he is actually fleshed out. He actually feels like a character, a person. He's not just a one-dimensional baddie with mommy issues. He actually has a personality. He has goals, and he has motivations behind those goals. CGI and soundtrack are much better than the theatrical cut, and Junkie XL's musical score is excellent.
Were you here when I was forced out? Now my foolish boat is leaning, broken love load on your rocks. Here I am, waiting to hold you.
The score is 4.5 out of 5. Number 2 is Shazam! Because there's an exclamation point in the title, which means you have to shout it. Like Airplane, or Mother, or Why Did They Let Pierce Brosnan Sing? I've been saying this the whole time, but it's true, the acting is great. It's solid across the board. Zachary Levi perfectly embodies a boy trapped in a man's body. Mark Strong makes for a solid villain. He very much embodies the comically serious trope. The other foster kids are great, especially Grace, formerly known as Fulton. Cooper Andrews and Marta Millins have solid chemistry, and the same is true in the sequel. I just forgot to mention them. And they feel like real, caring, loving parents, foster or otherwise. Also, Jimon Hansu is a badass as always. The humor rarely, if ever, misses. Eugene not realizing it's nighttime because he's been staring at his laptop screen since before sunset. Shazam being too far away to hear Savannah's evil monologue. And Darla just being generally adorable. I love it. Also, one little storytelling thing I love is that when they're all getting dressed to go and find Billy, they all come back and Darla is still getting ready because she's slower than them. So eventually when they all get powers, her main power is super speed. I love that so much. The action is consistently solid. It's not the best, but it's definitely well above average. And I especially love it when they all become superheroes at the end and they're learning to work as a team.
All hands on deck. Say my name.
Billy!
No, not my name. No, say the name that I say to turn into this guy.
Shazam!
Guys? What's happening?
I can fly!
The musical score isn't the best, but it's still pretty damn good. And I love that this movie gives us a positive portrayal of the foster system that, frankly, not nearly enough movies do. And that is also true of the sequel. My score is 5 out of 5. Finally, my number 1 is The Suicide Squad. James Gunn is a mad genius and a national treasure who must be protected at all cost. This movie is his magnum opus. The cast has no weak links. Even in some of the other movies in this franchise, when I've said the cast is consistently great, there will still be a weak link here and there. This cast has no weak links. Danielle Melchior is the standout as Ratcatcher 2. She is just so goddamn funny, but also like very earnest. She's basically the heart of the film. Idris Elba and Margot Robbie are the other standouts here. Joel Kinnaman, John Cena, David Dastmalchian, Sylvester Stallone, Viola Davis, they're all good if not great. The action, the music, the comedy, they're all great. The cinematography and the editing are on point. The directing is great.
I ain't so bad then. Hello, singer! We love song! I love the time. She will only be, only be. live up. I ain't got nobody. Oh, and there's nobody cares for me. There's nobody that cares for me. Nobody cares for me.
The script is tight. The main characters have depth and development, although some more subtle than others. And most importantly, this is a very comedic movie, but the emotional moments still genuinely work. My score is 5 out of 5. Hey everyone, what's your ranking? Let me know down in the comments. Like and subscribe and all that. If you don't like the video, tell me why. Then subscribe, and when you're notified about my next video, tell me why that one sucks too. That's all for now. Stay safe in these crazy times.